You ever walk into a room and feel your energy shrink? Like something invisible just tightened around your chest and you know it's not in your head. You've been there. We all have. That one person, that look, that comment, that passive dig dressed up as concern. They smile in your face, but their presence drains you. And the worst part, you keep letting it happen. Let me ask you something. How many times have you sat in silence while someone crossed the line? How many times have you laughed it off, brushed it off, swallowed it down just to keep the peace? But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Toxic people don't stop. They don't change. They don't back off. They dream, manipulate, control, and invade until you stop them. And no, I'm not talking about snapping back or playing their game. That's what they want. I'm talking about doing something so clear, so final, so powerful that they'll never come back the same way again. There's something you need to know. Toxic people are power sensitive. They don't feed on kindness, they feed on access. And the moment you stop offering explanations, stop reacting, stop proving yourself, the moment you flip the power dynamic, they feel it and they hate it. But that's not your problem. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Not anymore. So today I'm going to show you the one shift, one internal decision that when you make it, you'll never have to explain yourself to a toxic person again. You won't have to argue, plead, beg, or block because you'll carry something inside of you that repels them without a word. You do this once and they'll never touch you the same way again. Let's begin. They want your words. They want your reactions. They want your explanations. Because the more you talk, the more they know where to pull, where to prod, where to twist. Toxic people don't need a full-on fight to control you. They only need your access. And access often comes disguised as something noble, openness, vulnerability, honesty. But when it's in the wrong hands, it's a loaded weapon pointed right back at you. You need to understand this deeply. The moment you feel the urge to over-explain yourself, you've already handed over your power. Think about how many times you've felt the need to clarify your intent. How many times you've said, that's not what I meant, or I didn't say it like that, or please understand where I'm coming from. Every one of those moments, even when coming from a place of authenticity, was a quiet transaction, your peace in exchange for their temporary approval, and they knew it. The truth is, toxic people don't care what you meant. They're not confused, they're calculated. They use your explanations as raw material to reshape the narrative in their favor. You think you're clearing the air, but you're just giving them more fog to hide in. Every time you defend your choices, they poke at your reasoning. Every time you justify your distance, they challenge your loyalty. Every time you share your truth, they distort it. So what do you do instead? You stop explaining. You let silence be your sword. You stop auditioning for the approval of people who thrive on your confusion. You stop showing them your blueprint and then wondering why they're always one step ahead of your peace. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean you become cold or dismissive. It means you become clear. You make a decision, not for them, but for yourself, that your clarity does not require a courtroom, that your truth, your boundaries, your decisions do not exist to be debated. It's uncomfortable at first. That silence, that gap between their question and your non-response, that urge to explain, to fix, to keep things smooth, but what's worse, a moment of tension or a lifetime of emotional manipulation. Silence forces toxic people to face something they hate themselves. When you stop giving them a mirror to deflect onto, they're left looking into the void, and most can't handle that, so they'll push harder. They'll call you cold, arrogant, selfish. Let them. Because every insult thrown at your silence is a desperate attempt to break it. And when they realize it doesn't work anymore, when they see that your peace is no longer dependent on their opinion, that's when the real shift happens. You don't need to raise your voice to make a point. You don't need to defend your choices to keep the peace. You don't need to explain who you are to someone who's already decided not to see you clearly. Power is not in the noise, it's in the restraint. It's in the pause. It's in the decision to not engage. When someone comes at you with guilt, manipulation, or subtle jabs, and you don't flinch, you rise. You grow stronger. You move into a place where their games don't even register on your radar anymore. Not because you're pretending to be above it, but because you actually are. Now here's the paradox. The less you explain, the more respect you command. Why? Because clarity is rare. Stillness is rare. People who don't flinch under pressure, who don't run to explain or prove themselves, those people feel untouchable. And toxic people know better than to chase power they can't control. So the next time you feel that pull, that instinct to defend your choices, to soften your boundary, to justify your no, I want you to breathe, slow, deep, calm, and then say nothing. Let your decisions stand. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them spin their stories. While you walk forward, clear, quiet, powerful. Because the truth is this, your peace is not found in being understood. Your power is not built on someone else's validation. And your life does not require permission slips from people who can't even manage their own. When you stop explaining yourself, something incredible happens. You stop giving others the tools to build your prison. And you start writing your freedom in silence, in clarity, in presence. And once you taste that kind of power, you never go back. Most people talk about boundaries like they're some polite request. Like setting boundaries means saying, please don't, with a soft smile and hoping the other person respects it. But if you've ever dealt with a toxic person, you know that's not how it works. Because toxic people don't respect polite. They don't understand gentle. They interpret kindness as weakness. And when you show up trying to set boundaries like a people pleaser, they'll test you, manipulate you, guilt trip you until you regret ever trying. You don't set boundaries with your words. You set them with your actions, with your tone, with your energy, with your willingness to walk away and never explain why. A true boundary doesn't beg. A true boundary doesn't warn twice. A true boundary says, this is who I am, this is what I allow, this is what I do not entertain, and if you cross this line, you lose access to me, period. That's the mindset of a warrior. Not a fighter, not someone full of anger or revenge, but someone disciplined, grounded, and unshakable in their standards. Someone who knows what their peace is worth and refuses to auction it off to the loudest voice in the room. Because here's what people pleasers do. They try to keep everyone comfortable, even when it costs them everything. They let things slide. They excuse bad behavior. They say it's not that serious just to avoid confrontation. But the truth is, every time you swallow your discomfort to make someone else feel better, you betray yourself. You can't build confidence on the foundation of self-betrayal. You can't live a powerful life while constantly shrinking to accommodate others. Toxic people are predators of weakness. They don't go after the strong. They go after the flexible, the uncertain, the people who hesitate when it's time to say no. And the more you try to be understood, the more they wrap you around their games. So you must learn to shift from, I hope they respect my boundary, to, if they cross this line, they will feel the consequences immediately. That might mean silence. That might mean walking away from the table. That might mean blocking them, removing access, cutting ties without guilt. Not to be cruel, but to honor your value. You teach people how to treat you, not by what you tolerate, but by what you consistently allow without consequences. And let's be clear, consequences are not punishments. They are the natural outcome of someone not honoring your space. If someone keeps talking over you, you remove your energy. If someone mocks your dreams, you stop giving them access to your thoughts. If someone violates your trust, you stop explaining why that hurt you and let them sit in your absence. Toxic people don't change through conversation. They only change when they no longer get what they want from you. And once you shift from trying to fix the relationship to protecting your self-respect, everything changes. People-pleasing is a habit built from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being misunderstood. But boundaries are built from self-respect. They're a declaration to the world, I matter enough to protect myself, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And here's the twist. When you live like that, when you stand like that, when you hold your line without shaking, you stop attracting toxicity. Why? Because predators know where the weak spots are. And when you stop giving off the energy of I hope you like me and start carrying the presence of I like me and that's enough, they disappear. You must become immune to guilt. You must stop apologizing for putting yourself first. You must stop explaining your boundaries as if they're up for discussion. They're not. They're declarations, they're standards, they're non-negotiables. And here's the thing, the first time you enforce a real boundary, it will feel harsh. You'll question yourself. You'll wonder if you're being too extreme. You'll hear the old voices telling you to just be nice. But that's the old you. That's the version of you who got drained, disrespected, and dismissed. The new you don't fold under pressure. You don't allow toxic people to rent space in your life. You don't set soft limits and hope they hold. You build walls that don't move. You're not here to be agreeable. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be clear, calm, and powerful. And if someone can handle that, let them go. Because nothing is worth sacrificing your peace. Not family, not friends, not history, not guilt. You get one life, and you deserve to live it, surrounded by people who understand one thing. Respect isn't requested, it's required. And it begins with how you treat yourself. So from this moment on, don't set boundaries with hesitation. Set them like a warrior, not to push people away, but to protect the peace you've earned. And when the wrong ones leave, don't chase, don't explain. Just smile and hold the line. Chaos doesn't always come screaming. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it shows up in familiar faces, people who know your soft spots and how to stir the storm inside you without ever raising their voice. And the most dangerous chaos, it isn't the one outside you, it's the one you let in. There comes a point in life where you have to make a decision, a final non-negotiable decision to become emotionally unavailable to chaos. Because the truth is, most people aren't burned out from working too hard. They're burned out from being too accessible, from constantly absorbing other people's drama, pain, projections, needs, and insecurities like it's their full-time job. If you don't filter who and what you give your emotional energy to, the world will drain you dry and ask for more. And here's the thing, toxic people don't want resolution. They don't want peace. They want reaction. They live for your response. They want to see you flinch, defend, explain, break, doubt. Your emotional attention, even if it's frustration or confusion, fuels them. So if you want your power back, you have to detach, not because you don't care, but because you care too much about what matters. Your peace, your focus, your future. Becoming emotionally unavailable doesn't mean shutting down. It means shutting out what no longer deserves access. It means you stop making space in your mind for nonsense. You stop offering explanations to people who never truly listened. You stop giving updates to people who secretly root for your struggle. You stop dancing in the emotional tornado that others create and refuse to escape. Chaos is only powerful if you meet it on its level. The moment you rise above it, the game changes. Try this. The next time someone tries to bait you with passive-aggressive comments, silence them with stillness. The next time someone dumps their emotional mess at your feet, don't pick it up. Let it sit there. Let them feel the weight of what they brought. You don't need to prove you're a good person by engaging with bad energy. You don't have to respond just because someone demands it. That's emotional slavery. Always reacting, always explaining, always trying to keep the peace that others keep breaking. When you become emotionally unavailable to chaos, you become a mirror to people. They can no longer hide behind your reactions. They're forced to face their own noise, and many can't handle that. So they'll try to provoke you even more, calling you cold, distant, arrogant. Let them. That's their storm, not yours. You weren't born to carry everyone's emotional luggage. You weren't designed to solve problems for people who are addicted to dysfunction. You weren't made to be the emotional sponge, soaking up negativity so others can feel lighter. No, you were made for clarity, for purpose, for strength. And strength isn't loud. Strength doesn't chase chaos trying to fix it. Strength observes, decides, and disengages. With no apology, some of the most powerful moves you'll ever make in your life will be silent. You won't need to announce that you're cutting people off. You won't need to explain why you stopped answering. You won't need to clarify your boundaries for the 10th time. You'll simply stop showing up to the chaos. Not out of anger, not to prove a point, but because you've evolved. Because you finally understand that peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. And anything that threatens it loses access. Let them call you distant. Let them accuse you of being too guarded. Let them say you've changed. You have. You had to. You've outgrown the version of yourself who kept setting herself on fire to keep other people warm. You've outgrown the guilt that used to follow you for saying no. You've outgrown the belief that being available to everything made you kind. No, it made you a target. The world doesn't need more nice people who are constantly broken inside. It needs more grounded people who know how to love deeply without losing themselves in the process. And that begins when you stop emotionally investing in chaos. You don't need to fix the dysfunction. You don't need to figure out the noise. You just need to recognize what drains you and then make the unshakable decision to protect your energy like it's your life. Because it is. You want a peaceful life? It starts with emotional discipline. It starts with knowing when to walk away from conversations that are going nowhere. It starts with refusing to engage in cycles that always leave you feeling worse. It starts with becoming so rooted in your own presence, your own path, your own power, that the chaos can scream, but it never reaches you. And when you master this, the toxic people will stop coming around. The manipulative games will fall flat. The emotional blackmail will no longer stick because you're no longer feeding the storm. You are the calm, and calm, when truly embodied, is more powerful than chaos ever will be. So from this moment on, choose peace over reaction. Choose clarity over conflict. Choose yourself over their noise. Become emotionally unavailable to chaos and watch your life transform. They think they know you. They've boxed you in with their opinions, their assumptions, their outdated definitions. They've labeled you based on who you used to be, what you tolerated, what you allowed, what you didn't know back then. They speak with confidence about your character, your potential, your worth, as if they've earned the right to define it. But here's the truth they will never see coming. You are not who they think you are. And you don't owe them the version of you that made them comfortable. The most radical, life-altering decision you will ever make is the one where you choose to rewrite your identity. Not based on where you came from, not based on what they expect, but based on who you are becoming. That decision, it changes everything. Because people will try to keep you small, not always maliciously, sometimes subconsciously. Your growth is a threat to their control. Your evolution reminds them of their stagnation. Their rising forces them to look in the mirror, and that mirror doesn't lie. So they'll try to hold you hostage with words like you've changed, you're different, that's not like you. Good, that's the goal. The version of you they're familiar with was convenient, easy to predict, easy to manipulate, easy to minimize. But that version of you was written under the influence of survival, insecurity, and fear. It was shaped by your need to be accepted, to be liked, to be loved, even if it meant shrinking, silencing, or sacrificing your truth. But now, that's over. You're not obligated to carry the weight of who you used to be. You're not here to prove to anyone that you're still that same person they remember. Growth doesn't require permission. Reinvention doesn't need an explanation. If anything, the more resistance you get, the more confirmation you have that you're on the right path. Because here's what happens when you rewrite your identity. Everything around you shifts. People will fall away, not because you pushed them, but because they were never meant to walk beside the stronger, more authentic version of you. Opportunities will arise not because the world changed, but because you finally showed up as someone bold enough to claim them. And most importantly, you will feel lighter, clearer, unshakable, because you've stopped living someone else's definition of you and started living your own. But let's be real, rewriting your identity isn't easy. It takes work. It takes honesty. It takes a brutal dismantling of the stories you've believed about yourself for years. The ones that say you're too much or not enough, the ones that were planted by parents, teachers, lovers, friends, people who had no business holding the pen to your life. You have to go back and reclaim that pen, rip up the old scripts, and write again. Not from pain, but from power. You don't owe your old self anything but gratitude. Gratitude for surviving, gratitude for enduring, gratitude for getting you here. But from this point on, you're not building your future around wounds. You're building it around wisdom, around clarity, around the inner knowing that says, I am not limited by anyone's expectations, not even my own past. You are allowed to outgrow your own story. You are allowed to speak differently, think differently, walk differently. You are allowed to stop showing up for roles you no longer identify with. And if that confuses people, let it. You're not living for clarity in their minds. You're building clarity in your own. Let them call you fake, dramatic, disloyal. Let them say, you've changed. Because if staying loyal to the old version of you is the price of their approval, it's far too expensive. The only thing you owe anyone is the truth. And sometimes the truth sounds like silence, like distance, like a version of you they don't recognize anymore. That's okay. They weren't meant to. And the moment you stop defining yourself by your mistakes, your pain, or other people's projections, that's the moment you step into power. True power. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't need applause or agreement. The kind that doesn't demand validation. The kind that lives in the eyes of someone who knows who they are and no longer apologizes for it. You're not a victim of your past. You're not trapped in anyone's narrative. You're not stuck being the nice one, the quiet one, the strong one, or whatever identity made other people feel comfortable. You're a blank slate with fire in your chest. You're a new chapter with zero apologies. You're a reclaimed voice in a room that used to silence you. Rewrite your identity. Write like your life depends on it, because it does. Write like no one's watching, because the real ones won't flinch. Write like your soul has been waiting, because it has. And from this day forward, walk like the person you were meant to be. Not the one they labeled you as. Not the one they remember. But the one only you have the authority to become. There is certain power in silence, a type of transformation that doesn't need to be witnessed to be real. When you truly decide to grow, to shed everything that no longer aligns with who you are becoming, the most powerful move you can make is to disappear, without announcement, without drama, without explanation. Because when you're serious about healing, building, and evolving, the last thing you need is noise. You don't need the applause, the approval, or the questions. You just need space. You need solitude, and you need the courage to go completely invisible while you do the work. So this isn't about running away. It's not about ghosting people to avoid hard conversations. It's about shifting the center of your life inward, where you are no longer performing, no longer proving, and no longer negotiating your energy. It's about walking away from the spotlight you never asked for, so you can finally see yourself without distortion. When you leave quietly, when you stop posting, stop updating, stop explaining, something sacred begins to happen. You begin to reclaim pieces of yourself that were scattered in the noise. You'll be tempted to tell people, to warn them, to say, I'm taking a break, or I just need time, but here's the truth. People who genuinely respect you won't need an announcement. And the ones who require a performance before they respect your peace never deserved a front row seat in the first place. So you go, quietly. You exit the group chats. You put your phone on, do not disturb. You stop attending the same conversations that never lead anywhere. You stop picking up calls that only drain you. You log off from the digital chaos that kept you addicted to distraction. And you redirect all that energy back into you. You start showing up for yourself in a way you never have before. You start waking up earlier, listening to your own thoughts. You start training your body. Not for aesthetics, but for discipline. You read more, think more, breathe more. You create routines that protect your peace, like sacred rituals. You dig into the emotional weight you've been carrying, and you start letting go. Not with a social media post, not with a declaration, but with deep, private release. You become unavailable, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. And the silence you feared at first, it becomes your armor. Because while they're wondering where you went, you're building. While they're speculating, you're elevating. While they're still playing the same tired games, you're rewriting the rules. When you finally reappear, if you choose to, you will not be the same. Your presence will feel different. Your energy will hit differently. You'll be more grounded, more certain, more selective. You won't laugh at the same jokes. You won't engage in meaningless drama. You won't be accessible in the same way, and that will confuse people. They'll say you've changed, and you'll smile, because you did. You no longer entertain what exhausts you. You don't reply out of guilt. You don't show up out of obligation. You move on instinct. You move with intention. You carry an energy that's clean, untouchable, mysterious, and they'll feel it before you even speak. You see, most people announce their growth. They talk about healing but never sit in silence long enough to hear themselves. You did the opposite. You didn't just talk about transformation. You lived it. And when you return, there's nothing to prove. Your life will speak for itself. Your clarity, your peace, your energy, it all becomes the evidence. That's what disappearing does. It gives you space to transform without interference. No eyes watching your every move. No judgment. No subtle pressure to stay who they remember you as. You become unreachable, not because you're running, but because you're rising. Because the person you're becoming can't be accessed by the same shortcuts and manipulations they once used. And maybe some doors never reopen. Maybe you never return some calls. Maybe you never go back to those places again. That's okay. Not everything you outgrow deserves a proper goodbye. Some chapters end quietly, and that's how you know it's real. So if you're feeling pulled to go silent, to retreat, to disappear for a while, do it. Don't second guess it. Don't explain it. Just vanish. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them question your absence while you rediscover your essence. Then when you're ready, when you're whole again, reappear, calm, focused, untouchable. And when they reach out, you'll realize something powerful. You're not avoiding them. You've simply outgrown the version of you who needed to be seen, needed to be understood, needed to belong. You've become someone they can no longer reach. Not because you built walls, but because you finally built standards. You want peace, you want power. Then understand this. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone earns the right to know where you are, what you're doing, or who you're becoming. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Distance is not rejection, it's elevation. And disappearing is not escape, it's transformation. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who no longer needs attention, approval, or applause to feel whole. That's who you become when you go quiet, when you do the inner work, when you stop trying to explain your worth and start living it. When you reemerge, if you even choose to, people won't recognize you, and they shouldn't, because the old you is gone. You didn't just set boundaries, you built a fortress. You didn't just pull away, you evolved. You didn't just disappear, you reclaimed yourself. So let them talk, let them wonder, let them miss the access they took for granted. Because from this point forward, your energy is premium and it's not available to just anyone. This isn't about revenge, it's about redemption. This isn't about silence, it's about self-respect. You don't owe them a return, you owe yourself a rise. Let them reach for the old you. You're already gone,